Hello, I'm Hilary Hahn, and I am answering questions from people who are curious about my new project with Hauschka, the pianist. Ray asks, I'm wondering about the process from brainstorming to finished product, which is never really finished, is it? Do you proceed by blending and contrasting the notes each instrument is able to make and coupled with the ability of the artist? The way we proceed is usually by, the way we proceed is by, one person has a musical idea that they put into playing form, and the other person reacts to it. Or we start together and we listen to each other and react to each other. And reacting can also be initiating a new idea. So it's not always, one person is leading and another person is following, but it is being aware of what the other person is doing. I don't think it's quite as planned as blending and contrasting, but I think that there is an element of that along with the various influences that have led us to being the musicians that we are, that happens without us realizing it's happening. Of course, when I listen to Hauschka's playing, I can't replicate the sounds that he's making because he has a different instrument that he's working with. He has this piano with all these different strings and all these different possibilities for changing the sound. On violin, you have other possibilities for changing sound, and you have a limited number of strings, but you also have the ability to bend pitch at will, and you have the whole option of how you articulate with the bow, and you have so many different ways of making sounds begin and continue that a piano doesn't have yet. A piano has elements of percussion and multi-voice options with all of the notes that are under their fingertips that a violin doesn't have as readily. So I think we are blending without maybe talking in advance about how we're going to blend in a very technical way. And I think we are also contrasting because in the sense that the instruments are different, we have different effects with each instrument. The blending happens because we're playing together and sounds blend on their own. Sometimes I'll try to be more in the middle of his sound or his range, and sometimes I'll try to be doing something completely different. And he does the same thing. So that, I think, answers that question. The process of brainstorming to finished product, I just like to comment on the finished product thing. A product can be a physical product, like a CD or an LP, or it can be something like a concert, which is a definite experience in a certain frame of time. As far as finishing, I don't know if you ever finish until you don't continue any further. For me, the finishing is the deadline, whether it's a self-imposed deadline or a deadline for a project to be done because the record needs to be produced, or a deadline that just happens naturally, where this is the last concert of this tour and that's when the tour ends, and so that's when this particular thing is finished. I don't think artistically you can ever know if something is completely done. Maybe some people can. I find the majority of people I've talked with say that it's done when it's time to stop. And that's when you know that you have to put it down. And you can maybe come back to it later, but usually when you come back to it later, it takes on its own new life and it becomes a new form of that same venture. The brainstorming, it could also be endless, but at some point you have to start actually doing something. So that's when the initial phase of brainstorming might end. But the brainstorming does continue all the way through, I find, with almost everything I do. There is a constant inner brainstorm going on, and sometimes it's shared with other people, and sometimes it's just kind of running on its own.